Racist passenger demands black man's removal, instantly regrets it when he flashes his badge. A misguided assumption. Olivia Baxter prided herself on exclusivity. She moved effortlessly through first-class lounges and luxury hotels, her wealth granting her not just comfort, but an unspoken assumption of superiority. For Olivia, luxury wasn't merely a convenience, it was a clear reflection of her place within society, something she believed was earned and justified. On a routine cross-country flight from Seattle to Boston, Olivia stepped confidently onto the aircraft, her heels clicking rhythmically down the aisle as she made her way to her seat. Her eyes, accustomed to swiftly sizing up her surroundings, narrowed slightly as she noticed the passenger already seated beside her assigned spot. The man beside her seat appeared poised and dignified. Marcus Bennett sat quietly, a picture of serenity and sophistication, dressed immaculately in a tailored charcoal gray suit. His presence exuded confidence, a calm, unpretentious authority that was both subtle and unmistakable. Marcus politely glanced up, offering Olivia a gentle nod and brief smile, before returning his attention to the small hardcover book he held. Yet, instead of reassurance, Marcus's quiet composure unsettled Olivia deeply. Her mind raced, irrationally bothered by his presence. Although he did nothing to provoke her, Olivia felt inexplicably threatened, her prejudice simmering beneath the surface. She began to fidget restlessly, adjusting her seatbelt and belongings repeatedly, glancing furtively toward him. Each polite page turn Marcus made seemed to further agitate her, amplifying a discomfort rooted not in any objective reality, but solely in her ingrained biases. Unable to contain her unease, Olivia discreetly raised her hand, signaling for the attention of a flight attendant. Her sharp whisper drew immediate attention as the attendant approached with a professional yet slightly wary smile. "Yes, Miss Baxter, how may I assist you?" Olivia leaned slightly closer, lowering her voice, yet unable to mask the underlying impatience and irritation. "Could I possibly move seats? I'm feeling quite uncomfortable here." The attendant paused, her expression subtly changing, sensing the unspoken tension. Maintaining her professional composure, she asked gently, "I'm sorry you're uncomfortable, ma'am. May I ask if there's a specific issue I can help resolve?" Olivia hesitated, a brief flush coloring her cheeks as she struggled to articulate her feelings without explicitly admitting to her prejudice. Her eyes briefly flickered toward Marcus again, who remained calmly engrossed in his reading, seemingly oblivious, or perhaps politely indifferent to her discomfort. "It's nothing specific," Olivia responded vaguely, glancing anxiously away from the attendant's questioning gaze. "I just don't feel comfortable sitting here." The attendant, clearly trying to navigate the delicate situation, gave Olivia an empathetic but firm smile. "Unfortunately, the flight today is fully booked, Miss Baxter. I assure you, we will do our best to make your journey as pleasant as possible." The subtle finality in the attendant's voice indicated the end of the discussion. Olivia's anxiety deepened, frustration gnawing at her pride, but she had little choice except to settle back into her seat, her mind now a storm of confused resentment and embarrassment. Marcus gently continued reading, unfazed by the exchange. Yet he sensed the discomfort radiating from Olivia, and quietly observed the situation from the corner of his eye. As passengers around settled in comfortably, an awkward silence thickened between them, broken only by the low hum of the engines and occasional polite announcements from the cockpit. As the aircraft moved steadily toward the runway, Olivia found her discomfort evolving into something sharper. A mixture of embarrassment and simmering irritation at the imagined injustice of the situation. She privately struggled, unable or perhaps unwilling to fully admit the ugly prejudices at the root of her discomfort. Her pride and prejudice had conspired silently, bringing her face to face with an uncomfortable truth she was not yet ready to acknowledge. Unbeknownst to Olivia, Marcus had already encountered such subtle prejudices countless times. It was a silent burden he carried gracefully, choosing patience over confrontation, dignity over bitterness. He continued calmly reading his book, determined not to let someone else's misguided assumptions disturb his peace or dignity. Yet, what Olivia could not foresee was that this silent tension would soon unravel dramatically, exposing not just her own biases, but also offering a powerful lesson about judgment, humility, and self-awareness. As the aircraft lifted into the clear sky, Neither passenger knew how quickly this seemingly minor discomfort would escalate into an unforgettable confrontation, illuminating biases hidden beneath polished surfaces, and forcing everyone on board to confront the harsh realities lingering behind polite facades. The flight attendant remained composed, her voice steady and gentle as she attempted once more to calm Olivia's growing agitation. "Miss Baxter," she said softly, offering a reassuring smile, "I assure you, Mr. Bennett hasn't caused any disruption. If there's anything specific troubling you, please let me know, and I'll do my best to assist you." Olivia felt the heat rising in her cheeks, embarrassed yet unwilling to admit her own bias openly. Instead, frustration mounted inside her chest, amplifying her internal conflict. She glanced around the cabin, noticing curious eyes now focused on her, intensifying the sense of discomfort and embarrassment. Every second that passed without resolution deepened her frustration, pressing her closer toward losing her carefully constructed composure. Marcus, meanwhile, continued quietly reading. His demeanor remained utterly unperturbed, the gentle flipping of his book's pages rhythmic and methodical. Marcus was no stranger to prejudice, subtle or overt, and had long since learned to respond to ignorance with dignity and patience rather than anger. He noted Olivia's agitation but chose to remain deliberately composed, hoping his own calm might help diffuse the tension. Yet Olivia misinterpreted Marcus's tranquility entirely, seeing it instead as arrogance, a silent mockery of her discomfort. Her irritation grew steadily, finally overcoming her better judgment. "I cannot accept this," Olivia snapped, her voice rising above the ambient hum of passengers settling in around her. "This is unacceptable. I paid a lot of money for my comfort, and I demand to be moved immediately." Her voice echoed through the cabin, louder than she'd intended, drawing curious stares from neighboring passengers. People began murmuring quietly, glancing discreetly in their direction. A few even discreetly retrieved smartphones, sensing that the confrontation might escalate further. Olivia ignored the ripple of whispers, her attention solely fixed on the attendant, who struggled to maintain her polite demeanor amid the mounting spectacle. "Miss Baxter," the attendant replied carefully, her tone firm yet gentle. "As I've already mentioned, today's flight is fully booked, unless you have a specific reason." Olivia interrupted impatiently, her words rushed and sharp. "You don't understand. I don't feel safe sitting here. It's obvious something isn't right about this situation." She gestured vaguely in Marcus's direction without fully acknowledging him, her implication clear. Marcus finally looked up from his book, calmly marking the page and setting it on his lap. His eyes met Olivia's directly, thoughtful and steady, carrying no hint of aggression, only quiet determination. Softly but assertively, he addressed Olivia directly for the first time, his voice firm yet calm. "Ma'am," Marcus said evenly, "I assure you that there's nothing about me that would endanger your safety or comfort. If you have a genuine concern, please speak openly." Olivia, startled by Marcus's calm yet firm reply, froze momentarily, her mouth partially opened yet silent. Her previous bluster faded into a brief hesitation. Rather than confront her own uncomfortable biases head-on, she doubled down defensively. "It's just obvious you don't belong here." Olivia sputtered, her voice trembling with embarrassment and mounting anger. She'd said far more explicitly what had only been implied before, and the silence following her words was tangible. Around them, whispers intensified, turning from curious to judgmental. Fellow passengers, sensing the real reason behind Olivia's unease, exchanged uncomfortable glances, their disapproval quietly evident. Marcus inhaled slowly, maintaining his composure. He'd faced prejudice before, but rarely this blatantly in such a public, confined space. The attendant stood silently by, clearly unsure how to respond to Olivia's naked aggression without escalating the situation further. Finally, Marcus leaned slightly forward, calmly addressing both Olivia and the nearby attendant. "Ma'am, I respect your desire for comfort, but your assumptions about me are misplaced. If you feel unsafe simply because of who I am, the problem lies with your assumptions, not with my presence." Olivia recoiled slightly at his directness, embarrassed as the murmurs around her intensified. Unable to retreat without losing face, she stubbornly maintained her posture, gripping her armrest tightly and staring forward, pointedly ignoring Marcus's calm gaze. The flight attendant, seeing the escalating tension, spoke softly yet firmly to Olivia. "Ma'am, please settle into your seat for now. If anything arises during the flight, please let us know, and we will address it appropriately. Olivia said nothing further, her face a mask of silent humiliation. Marcus quietly returned to his book, the subtle tension lingering in the air. Yet beneath his calm exterior, he reflected sadly on the persistence of such prejudice and the reality of confronting it in everyday scenarios. As the plane engines hummed softly, a charged silence settled around Olivia and Marcus, intensifying by the second. Olivia sat rigidly, gripping the armrests, her posture communicating discomfort and stubborn defiance. Her prejudices had been unspoken but palpable. Now, they'd become impossible to ignore. Marcus Bennett continued to sit beside her, his poise intact. He gently closed the small hardcover book he had been reading, placing it neatly onto the tray table in front of him. The gentleness of his movements seemed to sharpen Olivia's agitation rather than soothe it. She interpreted his calm as arrogance, feeling increasingly cornered by her inability to articulate any genuine threat. The flight attendant hovered nearby, her expression uneasy but watchful, uncertain how the confrontation might further unfold. Around them, passengers whispered softly, some stealing concerned glances, others discreetly aiming smartphone cameras toward the pair. They had become unwitting observers to a quiet yet profound drama unfolding in first class. Marcus took a slow, steady breath, his eyes thoughtful yet resolute. He had long navigated moments like this, situations where dignity required strength and restraint, but rarely had such an encounter escalated so openly, so publicly. Marcus knew that, despite his calm exterior, his response would shape not only his experience on this flight, but perhaps many more encounters yet to come. With careful deliberation, Marcus gently closed his book, sliding it neatly into the seat back pocket. Then, with purposeful calmness, he slowly reached into the inner pocket of his finely tailored suit jacket. Olivia's eyes flickered anxiously toward him, wary but curious. Her breathing quickened, uncertain about Marcus's intentions, but unwilling to betray further discomfort. Marcus's movements were methodical, calm, and deliberate. Without haste or drama, he pulled from his jacket pocket a small leather wallet. His fingers moved with practiced precision, gracefully flipping the wallet open. Inside, gleaming under the gentle cabin lights, was an unmistakable badge emblazoned with the emblem of a high-ranking federal law enforcement agency. "Miss?" Marcus's voice broke the thick silence, smooth, calm, yet commanding. "Your safety is not in jeopardy. In fact, I'm here specifically to ensure everyone's safety, including yours. You have nothing to fear from me." His words hung in the air, reverberating gently yet powerfully through the surrounding passengers. Olivia stared, speechless, momentarily paralyzed by the implications of what she just witnessed. Her confident facade shattered instantly, replaced by an expression of shock and disbelief. Marcus's badge, clear and authoritative, stood as undeniable proof of her misguided judgment, shining starkly against her unfounded assumptions. The flight attendant's eyes widened briefly before regaining composure, swiftly understanding the magnitude of Olivia's accusation and the calm dignity of Marcus's response. Other passengers exchanged glances, some nodding subtly in approval, relieved and vindicated by this revelation. The atmosphere of suspicion and tension melted away, replaced with clarity. Marcus was precisely who he appeared to be, a man of dignity, authority, and integrity. Olivia froze entirely, mouth slightly agape, words lodged somewhere deep inside her throat. The realization that her prejudice had not only been exposed but disproven publicly and unequivocally left her speechless. She sank back slowly into her seat, face reddening with embarrassment. Her previous confidence dissolved into shameful silence, leaving her quietly humiliated, painfully aware of the judgmental gazes directed toward her. Passengers who had watched the exchange now openly voiced their support, murmuring quiet words of approval towards Marcus's dignified handling of the uncomfortable confrontation. A passenger seated across the aisle, an elderly gentleman who had observed silently until now, leaned toward Marcus and quietly remarked, "Sir, thank you for your patience. Not everyone could have handled that with such grace." Marcus merely nodded politely, a gentle acknowledgement of the compliment. He understood the importance of this moment, not simply for himself, but for the message it would inevitably send beyond this confined cabin. Around him, passengers exchanged quiet smiles and nods, wordlessly signaling their approval of Marcus's calm courage in the face of unjust hostility. In stark contrast, Olivia's mind raced, panicked, and overwhelmed. Her carefully constructed facade had shattered, replaced by raw vulnerability and public scrutiny. The quiet murmurs of her fellow travelers echoed painfully, underscoring her isolation. What had seemed mere moments ago a private prejudice now stood exposed as a public disgrace, painfully visible to all aboard. Passengers, many having secretly filmed the confrontation, whispered to one another about uploading the footage to social media. Unbeknownst to Olivia, her behavior and Marcus's dignified response were already spreading rapidly online, shaping narratives far beyond her control. This revelation would not remain contained to a simple plane journey. It would become a moment of reckoning, forcing a broader conversation on prejudice and dignity in society. Marcus, however, quietly returned to his book, determined not to dwell on the incident. His focus and dignity undiminished, he embodied resilience, a quiet symbol of strength amidst injustice. As the aircraft sailed onward toward its destination, the tension gradually eased, replaced by a profound reflection. Olivia sat silently, overwhelmed by embarrassment, humbled by the stark lesson she'd just learned about prejudice and privilege. Marcus remained thoughtful, knowing well that this encounter was neither isolated nor extraordinary, yet hoping the ripple it created might inspire a meaningful shift in understanding and empathy. In that quiet cabin, soaring thousands of feet above the earth, a powerful message had been delivered, clearly heard and deeply felt. Dignity and truth could confront prejudice with more strength than any raised voice ever could. Unbeknownst to Olivia Baxter, seated several rows away, passenger Julia Chambers had quietly begun recording the incident on her smartphone from the moment Olivia raised her voice. From her vantage point, she captured every detail. The tension etched clearly on Olivia's face, the restrained yet dignified calm of Marcus Bennett, and finally, the pivotal revelation of Marcus's official government badge. By the time Flight 385 touched down gently at its destination, the video had already spread far beyond the cabin. It traveled rapidly across social media platforms, gathering momentum with every share, every outraged comment. The contrast between Olivia's overt prejudice and Marcus's composed dignity resonated powerfully with viewers worldwide. Within mere hours, hundreds of thousands had watched the brief yet powerful footage. Hashtags emerged swiftly, condemning Olivia's blatant racism and praising Marcus's poised response. People who saw the clip expressed their disbelief, anger, and sadness, recognizing in this incident a mirror held up to society's own lingering biases. Media outlets quickly caught wind of the trending video, transforming the incident from a viral clip into a headline-grabbing news story. Reporters began digging deeper into Olivia's professional background, revealing her prestigious corporate ties and elite social circles. Suddenly, her entire life was placed under a spotlight she never expected nor desired. Olivia had barely made it home when her phone erupted with notifications. Panicked, she watched in real time as her previously impeccable reputation collapsed like a house of cards. Clients she had nurtured for years rapidly distanced themselves, posting public statements severing ties. Organizations that once proudly listed her as a board member announced swift departures, condemning her behavior as entirely inconsistent with their values. The backlash intensified by the hour. Her social media profiles were inundated with comments expressing shock, disappointment, and outright anger. Olivia's carefully constructed public image of success and respectability unraveled rapidly, each online share further reinforcing the magnitude of her actions. Across town, Marcus experienced an entirely different response. While Olivia's life spiraled, Marcus found himself thrust unwillingly into the public spotlight, not as a victim, but as a symbol of dignity, integrity, and grace under fire. Initially, he felt uneasy with the newfound attention. He hadn't sought recognition or praise, nor did he view his reaction as heroic. To him, it was simply a matter of principle, a demonstration of quiet courage in the face of ignorance. Yet the messages he received, heartfelt and genuine, made Marcus reconsider his discomfort. Strangers from across the nation reached out, sharing personal stories, gratitude, and appreciation. Many saw themselves reflected in Marcus's dignified response. Individuals who had quietly endured prejudice, silenced by fear or exhaustion, now found inspiration in Marcus's calm strength. Schools and organizations requested Marcus's presence at events to speak about professionalism, dignity, and racial understanding. Though initially hesitant, Marcus eventually saw these invitations as an opportunity, a chance to use his unexpected platform to encourage empathy, respect, and direct conversations about prejudice and bias. As Marcus gracefully stepped into this new role, Olivia struggled to control the growing damage to her personal and professional life. Friends she believed were loyal quietly distanced themselves. Her phone calls went unanswered, messages left unread. She watched helplessly as her reputation crumbled, replaced by a humiliating notoriety. The isolation she now experienced was profound and unprecedented, forcing her to confront the ugly truths about her own prejudices. In the aftermath, the video continued circulating, becoming an iconic reminder of accountability in an interconnected world. Marcus's quiet strength became symbolic of the possibility for dignity and composure, even amid ignorance and hostility. Olivia's downfall, meanwhile, served as a stark warning about the swift consequences society now exacted for prejudice left unchecked. The lesson became clear and unavoidable. Discrimination, once casually hidden behind closed doors, could no longer remain unseen or ignored. In this digital age, prejudice carried consequences, not simply private embarrassment, but public reckoning. Flight 385 had become a defining moment, echoing far beyond the narrow confines of an airplane cabin. Marcus's dignified response to prejudice and Olivia's misguided assumptions had been forever captured, a lasting testament to the powerful intersection of justice, dignity, and accountability. The story of Flight 429 serves as a powerful reminder that prejudice carries a cost, while dignity and composure have the power to inspire change. Olivia Baxter's assumptions led to her public downfall, while Marcus Bennett's quiet strength turned him into an unintentional role model. In a world where bias often goes unchecked, moments like these force us to reflect on the impact of our actions and challenge us to be better. Whether in a crowded airplane cabin or in everyday life, how we treat others defines who we truly are. If you found this story thought-provoking and believe in the importance of these conversations, make sure to subscribe for more powerful stories on justice, resilience, and the human experience. Stay tuned for more content that challenges perspectives and inspires change. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.